Hello and welcome to another segment of the LPE Author Chat series. I am your host, Kimmoly K, LaBoo, CEO and founder of LaBoo Publishing Enterprise. And this week we have our special Anthology Edition with the authors of The Black Father Perspective, What We Want America to Know. And our special guest on this evening is Mr. Jamarr Jones. So welcome to the broadcast, Jamarr.
Thank you. It's a
Good to have you. Yeah, good to have you on. So your chapter was very interesting. Had calls to actions and everything, and we're going to get to that. But your chapter is titled Truly a Girl Dad. So you are the dad of 4 amazing girls, 2 of whom I've had the privilege of being able to mentor before I moved off to Hawaii. And so I love how you started off your chapter just telling the story about being a teenage father and the moment that you found out that you were having twins. Yeah. So talk a little bit about what that was like for you at the young age of 17, finding out that you were having twin girls.
Wow. At that time, I was in my junior year of high school. I was on a basketball team. I was working, just doing things to prepare for college, living in my mom's house. So it wasn't something that was planned at all. It wasn't, my goal at the time, but it was something that I had to deal with immediately. And being at that age and really not thinking, not preparing or thinking about it, it was something that was a reality that came really quickly. It got real fast.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And I love how you told the story of, well, first of all, you hadn't that she was having twins and you went to the doctor's office with her, and then they were kind of joking about the fact that there was another one and you said you just didn't get it. Like it didn't click for you what they were talking about.
Yeah, it took a few times for it to register. She had to slow down and really explain, no, listen, it's 2 babies. And I had to, wow. I just dealt with the process of even coming to terms and explaining that to my parents. That I was having one child, so it was definitely a surprise for me at that time.
Yeah. So what was that like for you, like on the emotional side of that? Because you were just 17 years old, for somebody else that might be facing this or their child is facing a similar situation. What was that feeling like for you emotionally?
Well, I would have to say that at that time I had my plans were to finish out high school, go on to college. So to be, to be put in a position or putting myself in a position where now I have to take the responsibility of being a man. I'm processing being responsible for another life, and all of my plans being altered at that time. It was a rush of emotions. So, just me having to come to terms with myself, me having to explain it to the world or the people that really mattered. It was a concern for me at the time. It was definitely a concern. I had to really think about how am I going to take care of this life. I'm still under someone else's roof. So, it could easily be a situation where, I'm out here, I'm all alone in this, as far as the support system that I already had. At that time, I didn't know if that was going to still be the same situation.
Yeah, I can imagine that it has to be scary too, has to be a little bit of fear. So talk about some of the challenges that you've had in raising twin girls. What's that journey been like for you?
Well, you definitely working double time the entire time. So when you think about having a baby, that's a challenge within itself. Having a newborn, taking care of their life, all of the things that come along with it. Just as far as the nurturing, the loving, the financial end, and the things that, can be difficult as far as like just changing diapers, something that you may not be used to feeding. But then when you have to do it for two, and both of them are active, and both of them are two lives, and then at the same time, it's your first time going through it. It speeds you up in the process. You really get tested on how committed you are, and you just have to step up to the plate. So I had to really get things together pretty quickly because it's nonstop.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like, I know when I was in high school, everybody would joke around, oh, I want twins. Back then you thought it was going to be cute. But I was like, after having one child, I was like, I don't know how y'all do it.
They're going
like
in different directions the whole time. Yeah.
So, wow. So I commend you for that. So, in your chapter, you talked about the accomplishments of each one of your daughters, and it's very evident like how much you love them and care for them. One of your daughters you actually acquired through marriage. And so, how have you been able to effectively step into that role? Because I know that being a step parent is not always an easy task. So, it presents its own set of challenges, if you will. So, how have you been able to effectively step into that role?
Blending a family, it's not as easy as you would think. When you have the right pieces in place, it can make it easier. So
Yeah.
my wife is amazing. She works with children. So she came in and helped me with mines and helped me with bridging that gap and bridging these two families together. But it came with its challenges, just as far as even everybody coming in and living under the same roof. Everyone finding their own space within it. But what really worked was being able to give them their own space, communication, allowing them to come to us, express themselves, having family conversation. And even then, there still was challenges. You're dealing with 4 young girls, and it's just going to be your natural sibling, rivalries and disputes. But keeping open lines of communication, I believe, definitely helped out a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So I'm going to read a little bit from your chapter. This is under what a child needs from a father. You said what a child needs most from a father is someone who is 100% invested in their child's future. A father should be willing to sacrifice in order to ensure his child's success in life. Whether it's supporting or disciplining, the action of love is especially important. So even when the teenager is not measuring up to your expectations, when they push you to your ultimate limit, love allows you to understand that life is not easy. We all make mistakes, and the end goal is important than the moment. I have been blessed with daughters who have been awesome over the years, but showing up when they are recognized for doing a great job in school or one of their extracurricular activities, being there to support them and letting them know as their father, they make me proud. That goes a long way with a child and their confidence. So what would you say though to, I love how you wrote that, but what would you say to the dad that maybe feels like he's missing the mark in that area?
Well, I think you have to believe in the process. One, you know what you want for your child. And if you're just not connecting, I've been at that point. My daughters have been awesome in the sense that they've done very well in school. They haven't really gotten in any major trouble, anything like that.
Amen.
But yeah, that's definitely a blessing. But it still comes with its challenges. So with me looking at it as a father, as a dad, as someone that cares and loves and wants them to have, ultimately be a successful person in this world, an effective person in this world. There's been times where as though I'm not necessarily connecting, and what can help you through that if you have strong people that are around them. Maybe they just can't connect with you. But if you have other people, I have daughters, so other strong women. There was a time in my life when our relationship with my older daughters, we weren't connecting. They were in their teenage years. And you actually were someone that was able to step in and mentor, and they could hear from. And when someone cares enough about them, the same way as that whole part of, it taking a village to really, raise a child, having strong pieces that, care if it's not within your family, then seeking out those people that you wouldn't mind your children listening to and receiving from. It can go a long way.
Yeah, that's so true, because sometimes they can't hear from you. And you as a parent, you feel like, but I said the exact same thing.
Exactly.
Sometimes they just can't hear it from you or don't want to hear it from you.
And that can be frustrating. And that can be very frustrating.
A parent. Yeah, it is as a parent.
Yeah.
Definitely. So what is it about your life, though, that gave you the conviction that you have about the role that you play in your children's lives?
I would have to say that what gave me the conviction that I have right now, I believe it's something that's natural. I believe that there have been people that have invested in me over the years. I've made mistakes in my life. Those things that I have, I put extra challenges in my own life. And it's somebody that's helped me over those hurdles. So being as though there was some things that I had to sacrifice, having children young, but I was willing to sacrifice. I believe that those people that invested in me, I owed it to my children to give them the same opportunities to be great in this world. And knowing that it's so many people that don't have a stable household. I wanted to provide for my children the opportunity for success.
Awesome. So here's where it gets a little bit dicey in your chapter.
Okay.
So this is the section in your chapter, What I Want to Say to Black Moms.
Okay.
So I'm going to read a section of this.
Okay.
You said, I would like to say, we all salute your success, but even though you are queens in your own right, we can go much farther together. A strategy of war is to divide and conquer. There has been a system set to break down the Black family, and it's hurting our children and increasing the economic wealth gap. You should take more time and make sure that the person you intend to have children with is the person who's demonstrating that he is the same man who wants to be with you and build a solid foundation with you, someone who is submitting to something that is higher than himself. So he's not only loyal to you, but he's held accountable to a higher power. So, okay. So I'm not going to lie. When I read that, it had me a little bit in my feelings.
Okay.
Only because, I understand what you were saying. I definitely understand where you were going with that. But as a woman, I know some men are slick. Mm-hmm. And I also know, though, as a woman, that we can ignore subtle signs and we can ignore flaming red signs as women. But it's a tricky situation, figuring out what is and what isn't. And, because y'all will say, well, baby, I'm not perfect, so then we start to question, am I just being picky, or am I crazy for seeing what I think I saw? So it's hard. And when you talked about the part about making sure that the man is submitting to a higher power, I'm gonna just say, I know for a fact that everything in the church ain't saved.
Right.
And even if they are, it's like, I know, men in the church that are abusive, narcissistic, adulterous, and everything else. So I guess I'm saying that sometimes it's hard to tell who is and who ain't. So what advice do you have for us as women? Because you're suggesting that, and of course I know, being a woman of faith, that discernment comes into play and all of that stuff, but it's a tough situation. So what advice do you have for us to do what you're suggesting?
And I would agree that it's tough. And I would like to say that it was just that the question was in response to specifically women. But I feel that men have to do the same thing. We just have to take a little bit more precaution when we're selecting who we're going to end up having children with. But for women in particular, even the things that I said, even though it's not going to eliminate the possibility of someone betraying you, but I think that if you're looking at someone that is submitting to a higher power, then your chances are a lot better than if we're not considering anything and we're just out having a good time. So if us as people, men and women, if we take the time and we go through some additional steps, some additional screening, and we move in a direction where we're looking for a long-term situation when we're laying down, then I think the results are more in your favor to have a longer standing relationship.
Okay.
And that's on both. That's on both sides.
On both sides.
That's on both sides, 100%. Because men go through the same thing. It's one, when you're talking about having children. This is a lifetime that you're dealing with. Yeah. It's a lifetime partnership that you're dealing with. So especially when we're younger, we're just having sometimes you're just being young. And it can be chalked up to I'm being young, and then it's not necessarily. It doesn't end up being necessarily what you would consider a mistake. It's you're blessed with a child.
Yeah,
but it's life changing. It's life altering. So it's the call of action isn't to attack women or to attack men. It's just for us to have more consideration for what the outcome can be. And the outcome could be is when it was okay, I'm dating and I'm having a good time and I may be dating someone else, it can end up being a lifelong situation. And I think that even just putting some additional steps or just taking it more serious, or us as parents having conversations from an early age about, with our children about the real, not necessarily consequence, but the realness of being a parent young, being a parent, and having someone that's not co-parenting with you, going through custody battles, going through someone walking out and you being the only one there, fighting and fending for your child. It's some things that when you're young or when you're just out dating, you may not be considering. And I think that they had, even though it made women uncomfortable, even though what I'm saying may make people feel uncomfortable, it's a reality. It's a reality of life that I've had to deal with. So everything doesn't really necessarily go smooth. You hope and pray that the outcome is a positive outcome for your children first. But you have to consider where you are in your life. You have to consider where you are financially. You got to consider all of these things. And that's me as a man. But women have a lot of power in the decision making process as well. So I'm not trying to attack. I'm trying to empower our women, our young girls to think about what we're doing. And it's the same thing I would say, and I say to my daughters, you're precious. What you have is valuable. You have more power than you think. Just like a man can be slick, you can demand a certain type of respect, or you can give away that power. So I just want them to embrace their power and, know that they have it. And, it's, you can make your situation, you can improve your odds on having a better situation if you have, if you're strategic about it. And it may not always pan out the way you want, but your chances can be better. And I think we need to have conversations in order to get better results as a community.
Good answer, Jamarr. Good answer. I wanted to give you a chance to clear some things up there.
Yeah.
So the next part. So you were talking a little bit about co-parenting and what you were just explaining there. So you wrote when I talked about what is the most difficult part about being a father, and you said, I would say co-parenting when the parents are no longer in a relationship with each other and they don't have the same vision for the child, the same end goal. It's a real challenge when there is division between the two parents. That only causes confusion for the child. The two adults must put their differences aside and make sure that they are doing what's in the best interest for the child. Otherwise, the children are caught in the middle and will find ways to leverage that fact that both parents are not on the same page. They will go back and forth between both parents, manipulating both sides for their own benefit. And I know that to be true for facts. So what are some of the things that you would suggest in how parents can put their differences aside for the benefit of the children? Because sometimes when emotions are high, it can become an ugly situation.
All right. I think that you have to, what would be ideal if both people could, both parents could be, on the same page.
Yeah.
I think for yourself personally, being in a situation, you need to make a decision that you're going to try to work with the other parent. And you actually have to figure out, because when you're in the midst of the friction and and the communication is broke down, and you actually feel that the other person is totally against what you want for the child. You can't come to a middle ground.
Yeah.
You have to continue to work to try and find a middle ground, because the entire time the child is suffering. And I know in some situations it's going to be more difficult than others, but I would say that you have to be willing to give it time. And go through all the proper channels that you possibly can. It can be tough. I would say that with your children, depending on how the situation is, let them know that you'll always be there. You have open arms, but there's some things that you can't accept in this household. It's a certain way. I love you, and continue to try to communicate with that other person and give them, some solid knowledge of what you're trying to accomplish with the child. And hopefully, with prayer and some continued conversation, it can possibly work out. But if it's only one-sided, you just have to do your best to try and bridge it.
Yeah, I agree. So to end your chapter was finally, what's important to me as a father. You said, I feel that the Black father's perspective is valuable. There are many fathers that are front and center, working every day to be the best example for the next generation, starting with their own children. Being a father can sometimes be a thankless job. My children's success is important to me, as is each one of them feeling that I love them and will do what is needed to support them. So what advice would you have for the father that wants to be in the lives of his children, but may be experiencing difficulty for whatever reason in making that happen?
It happens often. I would say stay diligent, try to create the communication. If you have to, you know, do a workaround, if you have someone else, another relative, or if you have someone that's within their family that, you know, you can try and work through them in order to bridge the gap. But I would say do whatever is necessary that's within, you know, reason, to try and, you know, let your child know, even if you're sending them, you know, a birthday gift, if you're making the phone calls, if you're doing whatever you can on your end to let them know, because they may not get it now, because, you know, if there is a roadblock and it is, you know, someone that's, you know, being that roadblock,
Mm-hmm.
uh, then what you can do is put forth your effort. If you're able to, you know, find out that they're having some type of event, a graduation, do what you can to show up, because your presence means a lot. And even
That's
if they
true.
don't realize it right now, it's something that will, be long lasting, and something they won't forget. So even though you may not be in the best position, the communication might not be there, I would say keep it all in prayer. One, because
Mm,
prayer changes things.
yeah.
You know, if you put that first, then it'll be amazing how things can end up working out, because it can look as if it won't work out. And
Mhm.
within your own efforts, it can't necessarily work out. But if you put God first, you keep it in prayer, and if you do what you need to do to try to bridge that gap, and do what you can to show up for your child, then it's something that may happen later on, but they'll remember. And
That's true.
sometimes the tables completely turn, and, you know, they can resent how things
Mhm.
happen when, they were young, and, when they're able to make their own decisions, when they're
Mhm.
going through life and they're dealing with life themselves, then they can appreciate, and, you know, and maybe they'll put one and one together, like, okay, well, no, I do remember these things. And, you
Mhm.
know, if you keep on, you know, pushing, then it'll work out. But you have to be fine with leaving it in God's hand, and that's
Mhm.
something sometimes tough, because,
Yeah.
you know, especially being a father, we a lot of times want to make things happen, and, you know, within the household, that's a lot of times our role. If, you know, when things
Mhm.
are, you know, when your back's against the wall, or the pressure's on, um, the you know, dad's expected to make something happen, and sometimes it can look like, well, why, you know, they may not understand why didn't you try, but if you're putting forth the effort, then they can appreciate that at some point in time.
Yeah. Yeah. Good advice. Good advice. So winding down. So let me ask you, the title of the book is The Black Father Perspective, What We Want America to Know. So what is it that you want America to know as it pertains to you being a Black father in America?
I want to say that, Black fathers, in America, there are more than what is shown, in the traditional media. There's a lot of fathers that, even if they are not in the household, they want to be. And a lot of there's a lot of Black fathers that are in the household that are, being excellent examples for their children. They're supporting their children. They're loving their children, and they're doing within the community. And, you know, it's a time as like right now that this light needs to be shined. This project is, you know, one, you know, many more to come, that's going to propel the Black father into the limelight, and show, the strength, and the contribution to this society. You know, we've been here since the inception of this America, and
Mhm.
we overcame a lot of these struggles, through adversity, through a lot of, you know, systematic things that were set to break it down. So if you
Mhm.
shine a light on a small percentage that aren't doing, what's actually being done, there's a lot of challenges that Black fathers have to overcome, and,
Yeah.
we're doing that. We're doing that.
Yeah.
We're making a stance right now to let the world know that Black fathers are here, and we're going to continue to grow. We're going to communicate and link together, and we're changing the narrative right now.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm just so proud of you guys. You really took this challenge on to get this book written and shared some valuable and thought-provoking things that will help people to have those discussions and change the narrative from what's being shown far more than the positive. So I just thank you guys for what you've done, and I thank you for your contribution to the Black father perspective, because what you shared is very valuable to this conversation. So lastly, I just want to give you a chance to tell people where they can purchase a copy of the book from you.
Okay, you can go to my website at Jamarr Rashan, that's Jamarr, Rashan, RASHAN.com, and you can get your autographed copy anytime.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for being my special guest on this evening, and thank you for enduring my tough question.
I was in the hot seat. But I appreciate. It wouldn't be right if I wouldn't thank you for putting all this together, the effort that you're doing behind the scenes and in the front, pulling us all together and being there every step of the way. The vision that you have, I have to salute you, Ms. Kimmoly.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work that you do with these, children out here as a mentor.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. Well, that's it for another segment of the LPE Author Chat series. To our viewing audience, thank you for joining us on this evening. And remember, if you're thinking about writing your own book, head on over to www.LaBooPublishing.com and connect with us there. And make sure you stay tuned for the rest of the episodes that are coming up in this series of the Black Father Perspective. Thank you for holding that up, Jamarr. So you can see the book cover right there. So be sure to grab your copy, give us your feedback. We look forward to hearing you guys. Have a great night. Take care and be blessed.
Be blessed.